This is another online game called Valorant. Now it doesn't seem to be quite taxing on a system, so I've got it on the highest quality settings, which seems to be fine. I mean, 100 frames per second. I mean, it won't show on this monitor because this monitor is limited to 60 frames per second, but the Bandicam indicators stating over 100, which is fine. Okay, so that's Valorant. This is Apex Legends. Now at the moment the frames per second is 60 frames per second, which is the sweet spot. I suppose you could I mean, I've got the quality on low and a lot of effects I've switched off. Looks alright to me, but I suppose if you want it looking better at the expense of your FPS, frames per second, then it's just a matter of adjusting them up or down as you see fit, really. It's whatever you're most comfortable with on this game, but I prefer with a fast-paced shooter, I prefer the quality to be low and the frame rate to be high. There's not a lot going on at the moment, but it's not dipping below 60 frames per second. It's not really a taxing game, I don't think, on CPU and graphic cards. So yeah, this is fine at the moment. Okay, so that's Apex Legends. This is the latest in the Need for Speed racing game series called Need for Speed Heat. Now at the moment I've got it on medium settings with a few of the other graphical options either set to low or switched off. And I'm getting 30 frames per second on this opening level. Now 30 frames per second on a racing game, that's fine. If you actually want to see more, a higher frame rate, then just set the quality down to low. But I think this is a good balance from looking good and also playing decent as well. I've got it on the highest resolution, but as I said before, just nudge it down and it's hovering around, I would say on average 35 frames per second at the moment, looking at that Bandicam counter. Sometimes it dips down to the high 20s, which is alright. Okay, so that's Need for Speed Heat. This is the latest game in the Tomb Raider series called Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now once again, I've set a lot of the settings to low, and quite a few I've nudged them up a notch, and after running the in-game benchmark we're getting 46 frames per second on average, which is pretty decent actually, considering we've only got 2 gig of VRAM to play with. So really it's just a matter of experimenting with what the other settings are, and I suppose if you can get above 30 frames per second on average, then that should be fine for this. Okay, that's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is another game in the Farcry series called Farcry 5, so it's really going to tax this sort of level of machine. Now I've run the in-game benchmark and I've nudged all the graphical settings down to low and nudged the resolution scale down slightly, and you probably see that VRAM, there's still a little bit of leeway, which the VRAM usage is set to quite high. Now the average is 80 frames per second, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to nudge some of those quality settings up and maybe the resolution, just to see if we can get it looking a bit better at the expense of frames per second, which to be honest on this monitor it can only display 60 anyway. So let's do that and I'll report back. Right, so I've nudged the quality up on all the settings and also set the resolution up as well. Now if you look at the bottom left, there's a VRAM limit warning because this card's only got 2 gig of VRAM, which is adequate for a lot of games, but for this one, on these sort of settings, you can see there's a warning there. Now looking at the average frame rate, which is the important figure, we're getting 34 frames per second, which, as I explained, if you can get above 30 it's going to be decent enough. But my concern is that VRAM warning message that we're going to see a lot of stuttering if there's a lot of action going on the screen during the game. So really it's just a lot of trial and error with this one. Okay, so that's Far Cry 5. This is Call of Duty Warzone, and I tried to record this on game recording mode and it wouldn't work, so I've got it on screen recording mode, but unfortunately you won't be able to see the frame rate counter. But I've got this on, I've got everything on low and the resolution right down as well, and the scale. Just give this machine a chance, because this is quite taxing on a lot of systems. So the more help I can give it, the better, really. And I'm indoors at the moment, so it's not really too bad. So yeah, this game's playable. It's just not going to look that great. It's okay to my eyes. It's a fast-paced shooter, so you're not going to really want that frame rate to be too low. And I'm outside now, and it's still standing up. Probably see a few graphical glitches now and again. But say for this level of machine, it's not too bad. I'm sure when there's a lot of players on the screen at the same time, the frame rate's going to go down quite a bit.
Guys. What the fuck, guys?
So the recommendation for this machine is just to keep everything on the lowest settings you can possibly get. Maybe experiment, because I say I can't see that frame rate, so maybe experiment for a little bit. And just see if you can still play it. Okay, so that's Call of Duty Warzone. This is FIFA 2018, and I think this machine will probably play a couple of games after this, because they seem to release a new FIFA game every year. But at the moment, on high quality settings, I'm getting easily 60 frames per second, so no problem there. And you can almost be certain it'll play any of the FIFA games prior to this if you've got a favourite game. So yeah, no problem at all with this one. 60 frames per second, FIFA 2018. So just to sum up then, this low cost desktop PC build has no problems really, despite the graphics card's 2 gig of VRAM. Doesn't have any problem playing some of the most recent popular games. So there's no real need to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds if these are the games that you really like, or you need to have a catch up on some games you've missed. This is an ideal machine. Just make sure you put the operating system on a solid state drive, and then maybe the rest of your budget can go on a large capacity mechanical drive. Okay, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave me a message if there's any games you'd like me to test on this sort of build.